right, welcome back to Business AM. My name is Simba Elijah Shalski again. We are at the tail end of the show this morning. And for those who don't know, therefore, this week we've celebrated a lot of things internationally. We've celebrated Men's International Day. We've celebrated Children's International Day. Now here, what you have to know is that in November, though, it's called the World Fraud Month. That's what you have to know. And so you have to be aware of fraud in your economy, in your company, and in your business, because it's classified under risk management. Good. It's important that even as you run your functions as an organization and as a government, as a company, you have to be aware of the areas that you need to really go in and attack. Because they say once those tick, then your business will be ticking as well. All right, this morning, I just want us to delve in more into this conversation. And in the studio, we have Collins from OCS to get us talking about risk management. Tell us exactly what we expect this week. They're organizing an event around the same area. Get to know about it, get to know how you can be a part of this, and especially what OCS can do to your organization. Collins, Karibu Sana Metropolitan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I just want us to understand specifically OCS. Then after that, we talk about exactly what it is that you do.
Okay. OCS Group is a risk management consultancy. And when you are talking of risk management, basically help inform businesses to make better informed or well-informed decisions. We do that by offering an array of services. Our main service where there is a lot of demand is the forensic investigation services.
Yes.
We also do cyber security. We help clients on security risk management. We also assist them on ethics and compliance and brand protection issues.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So when we're talking about fraud, this week is relevant exactly to what your company does as well.
Yes.
How do we start to understand fraud from an organization level?
Okay, from an organization level,
yes.
In fact, we like putting it into context. When you're putting into context, there are various forms of fraud.
Yes.
But which could be affecting an individual or an organization, or it could be anyone. For an organization, we'll try and restrict ourselves to occupational fraud. These are by the people who are interacting with the organization, be it employees, management, suppliers, or any person involved in that organization is committing fraud or facilitating fraud. And when you're talking about fraud, it's basically looking at intentional deceit. There must be an intention for someone to make someone else lose something through deceitful means.
Yes.
So for an organization, this will be in form of making the organization lose money, lose their reputation, or just even sabotaging the organization.
Yes.
Yeah, so it will take a number of forms, but it's the main thing about fraud is the intent.
Yes.
To deceive someone else or the organization.
Yes.
And then the person who's doing the actions that are actualizing the deceit will be gaining in one way or the other.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, now, from when you said, Collins, I would like to think that you've worked with organizations and businesses within the Kenyan economy. You do know exactly what it is that they're looking for most. What is this type of fraud that you actually met most of the times when you go to give services to these companies?
Okay. The main thing that we deal with is financial fraud.
Yes. Would you say that that's the leading problem when it comes to companies within the Kenyan economy?
Yes, that's the leading problem.
Yes.
And it takes various forms. Because employees, for example, there's we find a lot of cases of asset misappropriation.
Yes.
These whereby employees are misusing the assets in one way or the other. We have some misstatements, financial misstatement, which basically overstating or understating.
Yes.
And we'll have one that is very common, even in public sector, also corruption, which takes forms like conflict of interest, bribery, extortion, and all that.
Yes.
That's the main areas we find. And of course, since we're in a tech revolution, or we're in the internet age, we are finding that it's facilitated a lot using tech.
Yes.
So you find a lot of cyber crime or cyber abuse issues that we also encounter with our clients.
Yes. It's interesting you should talk about that, because from where most Kenyans sit. I mean, we see fraud cases all the time. In fact, we've seen a lot in the banking sector as well. I mean, we've seen guys steal money, and they say these are the inside jobs. Would you say that Kenyan companies are aware that actually when it comes to fraud and risk management, they should look within as opposed to trying to manage something that's going to come from outside? Would you say that we are at that point, have we realized enough?
I think we've not realized enough.
Yes.
Because you find that most of the fraud that we encounter in companies
Yes.
is due to internal weaknesses and perpetrated by insiders. But there are still a number of organizations that focus on preventing outsiders or third parties from defrauding them.
Yes.
Forgetting that the people they have within, the insiders, they have inside information, they know everything that goes on, and they take advantage of the loopholes that exist.
Yes.
Those are the guys who actually hit hard. If they were to perpetrate fraud, it will be more lethal to the organization than someone who's a third party or an outsider.
Yes.
So in short, a number of organizations have not come to the realization that a lot of effort needs to be done to where insiders are concerned.
It's interesting you should talk about that as well, because I just really want to understand this fraud. Now, you as OCS now, if a company comes to you now and tells you we just need a proper understanding of some of the risks that we need to manage in an organization, which are the go-to areas that you normally attack and say we need to target this, we need to start from here, just in the process of trying to manage this?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, what we look at, because when you go to an organization, whether big or small,
yes,
we'll want to do a fraud risk assessment, just to say, look at what mechanisms have you put in place that will make it difficult for fraud to take place or to minimize the impact of fraud.
Yes.
And one thing that we look at is the internal control system. How have you designed your internal control mechanism? What governance, policies, procedural issues have you put place to make it difficult for someone to take advantage?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you, I know you've looked at these policies and systems that these companies have put in place. Would you rate them and say that companies outside here are trying, or we are still not there at all? Which number will you give us from 1 to 10? From
1 to 10?
Yes.
Okay, I can't give wholesomely because there are industries that are doing well.
Yes.
For example, in the financial sector, they are doing well.
Yes.
And I think also their biggest advantage, they have a regulator.
Yes.
There are so many things that they need to comply
with.
So their level of having controls is higher. And first of all, they're the ones who are hit the most. And if they're hit, for example, if you hear your bank has lost money,
very much.
You'll have, so because of that, the banking sector has a higher, they are better. They are at a higher maturity level.
Yes.
So it varies from industries. FMCG, they are trying because of the operational aspects of their businesses. We have people like insurance industry who are hit hard, and they are, because of that, they are working hard to better their systems or their processes.
Yes.
So it varies from industry to industry.
Yes.
Yes.
So when these companies come to you, what trend have you actually noted? Are they coming to you so you can better their policies and systems, or are they coming to you telling you, we don't have one, I think you need to help us come up with one now?
I think it comes, I think there's something in our market or in Kenya about just like when you're sick in hospital, when you're sick, people go to visit the doctor or to the hospital when they're sick. Isn't it? You don't go for a health checkup. And the same thing. So we don't have a lot of work where people are come and check, help us improve. Most of the work we get is something has happened.
Come help us find out.
Come help us, Yes. And it also becomes a hard sell. For example, some organizations, they are looking, when you're trying to sell that, you want to say, okay, OCS, we tell OCS is saying that we can help you better improve your control framework so that you minimize fraud and all that. They are seeing, hey, this one, they are not seeing they're not seeing something tangible.
Yes.
So it becomes a harder sell. But when something has been hit, they'll actually don't look for work.
Yes.
They'll be coming to us.
They'll be coming to you.
Oh, hey, this has happened. Check what is.
We pretty much need to know what's going on. Yes.
So I can say in this market, we are still reactive.
As opposed to preventative, isn't it?
And that's what, even in fact, during this week, that's what we're trying to push.
Yes.
That, yes, we are there. When we get investigation jobs, it's good for us. But it's best to have better controls, or better try to prevent, so that you minimize the impact of fraud if it were to take place.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the things that are really going to stand out is that Kenya, for it to become a mid-income economy that everybody is really wanting to push the economy toward, is that we have to really leverage on technology. And if you look at how much money we spend when it comes to mitigating risks around cyber security, it was 28.4 billion shillings from 2018. That telling you that we are still open. We're still open. So are you coming up with a solution, therefore, that are tech-related? In the sense that we're going to give you a system that is just going to leverage completely on technology. In the sense, we don't have to be there physically, but you can pretty much track it by yourselves. And is that the only way we're moving to when it comes to managing risk, fraud, and pretty much overlooking the companies, really?
Yeah. Actually, that's happening a lot.
Yes.
And what we do, we don't recommend a specific solution.
Yes.
Because ourselves, we are not a solution provider. We do it from an advisory perspective. And there are many solutions, depending. You could be protecting your infrastructure,
yes,
which is the technical side. You could be protecting data or the application. So there are different forms of protection. So when you're talking about tech, since tech is facilitating business,
yes,
it will mean if fraud was to happen, it will be through, that will be the means.
Yes.
So it basically makes sense. If you're having any prevention efforts, tech should be involved. So what we do is that we advise clients on how do you have a system or IT framework that can be able to help you minimize fraud. And basically the best way to do that is still, we are insisting, like especially this week during the earnings, saying it's about control.
Yes.
It's cheaper to invest in monitoring what's happening in your infrastructure or in your tech environment than coming and trying to find out what happened later. So what we try to tell people is that, are you able to continuously monitor what's happening? Are you able to view the traffic,
yes,
to know what traffic is coming to you and what traffic is leaving?
Yes.
Are you able to know the transactions that are happening in your systems? Are you able to monitor? The best case scenario is to monitor real time. But not everyone is able to do that, depending on what business they are in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another way, really, that people look at it, because we've been accused, we as an economy, of really being cost sensitive.
Yes.
Are you running into the solutions where, yes, we need it, yes, we want it, but I don't think we actually put it into our budgeting, in the sense that when it comes to risk management and fraud issues, that maybe A or B when it comes to our budgets?
Yeah, actually,
yes,
what's saying happens every day. In fact, even when it comes to, we've seen even in an IT department,
yes,
when they are doing their budgeting, the security budget is not given a lot of priority. So because you see, we want to buy servers, want to buy the systems and all that.
Yes.
But then it's good to have them because they are enabling business, but you need to do that and invest. How are you securing them? So we've seen that the budgets given to security are not appropriate to what the investment is being put in technology.
Yes. Cool. I just wanted, therefore, Collins, to talk about the event that you're putting on this week. When is it happening? How can we participate? And what we expect to come out of this event? And so what are you looking to communicate this week in terms of fraud and risk management around companies and organizations?
Okay. For this week, we are doing three things mainly.
Yes.
The first one, we want to give a report on the status of fraud. This one, we're doing the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners.
Yes.
This is a body that we are part of, and they conduct global research on what's happening around fraud, the cases that are reported, and how the trends are going. So we'll be dissecting and giving statistics on what the survey or the research came up with. And then we'll also try to localize and give what is it in Kenya or Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
What are we seeing?
Yes.
Having done that, the next thing will be, what are we doing about it? And our focus will be not more on, we see about grand corruption or government, and all that. Now the fact, what are we doing as companies or private sector to try and minimize fraud and corruption within our own businesses?
Yes.
Yes. And then lastly, we'll be also sensitizing people on the 2 years ago, Parliament enacted an anti-bribery act, which changed the ballgame where private sector is concerned. If you look at DCI, anti-corruption, the ethics and anti-corruption commission,
Yes.
is basically a lot of things they do are geared to the public sector. The anti-bribery act is actually bringing in private sector on board in matters of bribery and corruption, so that you can be held liable if you see corruption or bribery and fail to report, for example.
Yes.
The EACC, who in fact the EACC has been given the mandate through the act to be able to investigate even private entities where corruption takes place without involvement of public. So the biggest thing will be telling the participants or the people who are coming to a function is that the ballgame has changed. Corruption, fraud is not about public institutions only. The private sector is being hit hard, and if you're an investor and you've lost money,
Yes.
You'll close your business the following day.
Yes.
So it's have mechanism and ways of making it difficult for fraud to take place,
Yes.
minimize the impact, and when it comes to compliance, now we're supposed to comply with the bribery
Yes.
act.
Yes, which is exactly what I just wanted us to talk about this morning as well,
Yes.
because you mentioned exactly where I wanted us to go next, the compliance area.
Yes.
Do you find that most of us are not aware of what the Bribery Act really states about what we need to do about it? What are the key issues under the Bribery Act that you would like to put forward so people listening to you can know, so that's exactly the way it is?
Yes.
Because it appears that our economy is unaware of even the Bribery Act. So it's as if it's,
very true.
Yeah, it's as if it's, I mean, yeah?
Yeah.
People talk about it openly without knowing that they're stepping outside the Bribery Act.
Yes.
Isn't it? So can we talk about it? What are the top issues that are addressed in the Bribery Act?
Okay, the top issue is
Yes.
that everyone has a duty to report. If you come across fraud, bribery or corruption,
Yes.
everybody has a duty to report. What does it mean? You cannot say it's no longer, it's not my business. Because if you see and not do anything about it or reporting, you're basically an indirect accomplice.
Constantly an accomplice, isn't it? Yes.
Yes. And now because of that, in fact, the theme of the event is see something, say something.
Say something, say something.
You may not be solving it,
Yes.
but alert. Alert the authorities or alert someone who's concerned,
Yes.
who can take action. So that's one main thing around the compliance. Secondly, as I said earlier, is that now our EACC can come or take up any private case or a case in a private organization,
Yes.
without involvement of public officials. Because the assumption has been if an investigation is being carried out, if you not interact with government, we never see a lot around that.
Yes.
Or it's so-and-so bribed this government official, or there was conflict interest in a public procurement tender or that. But now what's going to happen is that you will be investigated whether there was public involvement or not. Yeah. So those are two things that we want to emphasize in terms of compliance.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Collins, this morning, therefore, I just want you to paint for me a picture of what OCS is working toward. When you look at the economy, what is a good economy that is fraud aware? Which is, I know what exactly you're trying to preach to these companies and organizations that you need to do ABCD. What picture, therefore, do you have for an economy that is totally aware of fraud issues and risk management?
Okay. This is an economy whereby there is business ethics.
Yes.
And when there's business ethics, you'll find that even the cost of doing business is lowered. Because there are you see when you pay bribes and you have those things that are fraudulent,
Yes.
they need to be loaded somewhere. If I come and ask you for 10%, you'll give me the 10%, but you'll load it in your costs.
Yes.
So your service, whatever it is you're offering, will be higher.
By 10%.
Yes. So what we are looking at is if we have ethical business practices, especially by the private sector, it means there's no one to pay, let's say, bribes.
Yes.
What does it mean? if we are going to tender for a job or looking for work, regardless of the business we are doing, we bring fairness. When you bring fairness, whoever wins will win at the best cost.
Yes.
And it translates to the actual consumer of the service or the good, because you find that now we end up being competitive as a country, as an economy. But if you continue the way we are, we'll become expensive, because the cost of corruption and bribe and all this will make everything become expensive.
Yes.
And that's when now you have, even if someone may become a foreigner. Someone come look at it, look at this example. You have something that is produced in Kenya. Of course, there are many things around taxes and the cost. But now, because of corruption, the product will be expensive. Someone imports from a different country, put in the shipment cost, custom and all that, and it ends up being cheaper than what is made locally. So there are many factors to it, but one of the things that advantage of having ethics in business and where there is no corruption or fraud,
Yes.
is that we able to do things in a cost-effective manner.
Yes.
And we end up being competitive. Yeah.
Risk and fraud management is actually one of the top issues the government is trying to push for as well. I mean, every time we have government officials come in and say, well, we need to do ABCD, we're going to fight corruption, we're going to make sure that our processes are clean.
Yes.
Are we going to see a lot of collaborations between OCS and the government in actually trying to push this agenda? Are there plans therefore to probably come up with, also work with government agencies to make sure, relevant government agencies
Yes.
for that matter, to make sure that this song is actually pushed to the economy?
Yeah, actually we're doing that. In fact, in the event that we're having a fraud awareness breakfast,
Yes.
we'll have some representatives from government agencies
Yes.
coming. And we're also part of the multi-sectoral initiative against corruption, whereby these are mainly people from different sectors who
Yes.
come together and say, how do we address this thing? It's not just a government issue. How do we work together and also involve government so that we see how best can we tackle that? So we are actively involved in that.
Yes.
And we believe that those are the stepping stones of seeing of the collaboration that we have with not only the public sector or government, but also even other institutions or other players in our market.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Collins, you have us now. This is your first time here. Anytime you want to talk about something,
Yes.
this is your studio as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
Okay,
All right.
thank you for hosting us.
That's exactly it is. All right, that is Collins from OCS. You really have to know and get aware of risk management issues and fraud issues. Another talking point is that, do you know what the Bribery Act actually states? Good morning. My name is Simba Kiage. I'll meet you on Friday for yet another edition of Business Hour.